With Skopje out of reach, the pilots set course for Ohrid, flying over treacherous terrain in darkness and deteriorating weather conditions. As they approached the airport, their navigation systems failed to provide a reliable VOR signal. They were effectively flying blind. But it was too late. This is the story of the Yak-42D of Avioimpex. On November 20th, 1993, Avioimpex Flight 110 took off from Geneva International Airport. At 10 p.m., on a scheduled charter flight bound for Skopje, Macedonia. On board were 108 passengers, many of them Kosovo Albanians working in Switzerland, returning home for the winter holidays, along with 8 crew members. For most, this was just another routine flight. A night flight expected to last approximately 2.5 hours. But beneath the surface of normalcy, things were far from routine. The Yakovlev Yak-42D was a Soviet-made, 3-engine aircraft. Avioimpex, a newly established airline in Macedonia, had leased it to meet the growing demands of charter flights. On this flight, the 2 pilots were experienced Russian nationals, Captain Sergei Karpov, who had logged over 12,000 flight hours, and First Officer Andrei Ivanov, with 6,500 hours of experience, though they had far less experience with the Yak-42D itself. The aircraft had passed its final safety inspections by the cabin crew, and after receiving clearance from air traffic control, it was ready for pushback. Skopje was their destination, but the weather in Macedonia was quickly deteriorating. The weather forecast at Skopje airport was ominous: strong winds, low visibility, and heavy snow showers. It became increasingly clear that a diversion might be necessary. As Flight 110 climbed into the night sky, the pilots received further updates. Conditions at Skopje were worsening. The snowstorm was intensifying, and the possibility of diverting to another airport, perhaps Ohrid, became more likely.
Видимость в Скопье стремительно ухудшается. Возможно, нам придется изменить курс. Как у нас с топливом? У нас достаточно, но давайте проверим с контролем альтернативы. Лед 110, Скопje vidljivost je pod minimum. Подгответе се за можно пренасочувание кон Ohrid. Подтвердить, переадресовать на Ohrid. Потвърдено.
As the weather closed in on Skopje, Avioimpex 110 was instructed to divert to Ohrid, a smaller airport located near the mountainous terrain of southwestern Macedonia. For one flight attendant, the events of that night would stay with her forever.
We were tired, we didn't want to go. We argued with the operations center, but in the end, another crew was sent. That night, I got the call. Our plane had crashed.
With Skopje out of reach, the pilots set course for Ohrid, flying over treacherous terrain in darkness and deteriorating weather conditions. As they approached the airport, their navigation systems failed to provide a reliable VOR signal. They were effectively flying blind. But it was too late. Flight 110 slammed into the mountainside, just 2 kilometers from the runway at Ohrid. Rescue teams arrived within hours, but the scene was devastating. The aircraft was torn apart, bodies scattered among the debris. There was only one survivor, a 20-year-old man, gravely injured. Despite efforts to save him, he succumbed to his injuries just days later. The investigation revealed that multiple failures had contributed to the crash: a malfunctioning VOR beacon, communication difficulties, and poor visibility. The crew had flown too low, unaware of their position in the mountainous terrain, and the ground proximity warning system had sounded just seconds too late.
We visited the crash site the next day. The air was thick with the smell of burnt metal and fuel. It's a sight I'll never forget.
Macedonia mourned the loss. Funerals were held, but for many families, closure was difficult. The remains of loved ones were scattered in the mountains, their lives cut short in an instant. For Avioimpex, the crash was a turning point. The airline replaced its fleet of Russian planes, but the damage was done. The tragedy of Flight 110 would never be forgotten.